Hey everybody, what is up? It's Dr. Vibe, your host and producer of the Dr. Vibe Show. And as always, I like to say you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and you're a solution for someone's problem. As always, you can check me out at DRVIBESHOW on Twitter, the Dr. Vibe Show, the DRVIBESHOW.com. Just go to the website. You can listen to many conversations and see many articles posted. Have a good friend back on the show. And since the last time he shared with us on the show, he's been busy. I see him in chats. I see him putting up shows, and we're really blessed to have him back on the show again. We have Ramon Hamilton, filmmaker, and he's going to get us up to speed with what's going on, especially with The Whole. That's WHOLE, The Whole. So, Raymond, how we doing?
I'm doing great, doing absolutely great. As you said, definitely keeping busy. I don't even know. The last time we talked, did I release the first episode? I'm not even, no. So,
no, you hadn't done that at all. So, maybe just give a little short background on yourself and we'll jump right into this wonderful first episode of The Whole that you've done.
Yeah. So, for those that, that aren't aware of who I am, I'm a filmmaker, mostly a writer-director with a company called Think 10 Media Group based here in Los Angeles, California. And essentially our company is committed to using the art of filmmaking and storytelling to shed light on social issues, to humanize everyone, basically, through the power of film and story. This is back in 2013, we were hit with the Pelican Bay hunger strikes that were happening just north of us. And, to make a long story short, this really brought to light the extremely insane conditions of solitary confinement. We started to learn not only about, the issues of solitary confinement, how widespread it's used, but also starting to explore the issue of mass incarceration. Which, now that has become a very hot topic in this country. We had John Legend at the Oscars. He, brought it up. And of course, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, they're now bringing it out there into the public stage, and so are many other people. And then there's, tons of advocates that have been doing this work for years, So, the lid is starting to be pulled off. Obviously there's a whole long road ahead. But that's what prompted this show, The Whole, and as you said, it's the WHOLE, which essentially looks at the whole, HOLE, which is another term for a solitary confinement unit or an isolation unit. Sometimes they call it the whole or the box. So it explores, just what does that look like? These units that people don't know what happens in there. They don't, it's not something that you get a glimpse of every day in everyday life in America. The average American has no clue what's going on in our prisons. So it explores that. And then the WHOLE is we step outside of the whole. We look at the larger prison system. We look at the larger criminal justice system. We look at this system of mass incarceration, and we explore, all of this. And when we start with one individual character, but we see how this all is interconnected, including just our society itself that has basically allowed this system of mass incarceration to happen, where we as a nation have the most prisoners than any other nation on the face of this planet. We have imprisoned more people than anywhere else on the face of this planet. And that's something that when you have to think about, like, A, like, seriously? And B, how did we get there? Like, how did we get here? Right. How did this happen? And then the next part is, well, how do we start to undo this? So for us, and for myself personally, the show is really it's to start the awareness. Let's first educate. Let's learn. What is happening in solitary confinement? What is the system of mass incarceration? And then try to get people to be engaged and to take action. But you can't take action until you know what it is that you need to take action on.
Well, and thank you for sharing that thought process. I always like to know when people who achieve something like yourself, take us from the time that The Whole was a thought to the time that it actually became a reality. When did you, because we've shared a number of times on the show before, and solitary confinement and mass incarceration has always been a passion of yours since the time we first shared together. Where did the idea come from for the whole to become a reality? Do you remember when you said, you know what, I've got to do this?
Yes, yes, and it was the Pelican Bay hunger strikes. That was it. And it's very interesting because my producing partner, Jennifer Fisher, and I, you know, and we were also husband and wife, but we were separately, you know, individually following this story. You know, I was at the time, I was teaching a class in East LA. So I would have these, you know, pretty, you know, it was about an hour commute back and forth. And so I'd listen to NPR or public radio, and I was hearing these stories, you know, but I wasn't communicating it back to my wife, my producing partner. And at one point, you know, it got so intense, you know, as the number of people that were on strike and learning about the force feeding and all, you know, horrendous things that were happening and still are happening. And we both at the same time brought it up to each other and realized we had both been following this. And it's the first project that I can safely say we didn't sit down and say, what should our next project be? You know, every time we have made a film in the past, we've come to the brainstorming table and, okay, what are some thoughts? What are some ideas? We never had that. This came to us and we were like, you know, as we uncovered it to each other, we both realized like, wow, this is what we need to do. So we never decided it, to be honest with you, you know, because when you hear about all this information and you start doing research and to know that we are filmmakers and our goal is to humanize everyone, it's an injustice to ourselves and it's an injustice to our filmmaking company to not make the show on that, you know. So so that was it. That's what got it started. And then from there, you know, this is actually a very different approach for us because everything we've done before has been films, you know, like just a single, you know, feature-length film or a short film. This is actually serialized, so we had never done that before. And even when we had the initial concept for this, we were like, okay, well, let's make a film because that's what we've done. You know, let's do a film that explores solitary confinement and prison, and you know, we'll get this out there. The problem came that as we started doing the research, looking at all these different stories, there's a plethora of things to talk about, to uncover. There's no way you can do it in a 2, 3, or even 4-hour film. You just cannot do it, you know? And so it hit us pretty quickly, like, okay, this has to be longer. This is a long, you know, and then we also, you know, realized that by doing it as something serialized, you know, you have a much better chance of creating empathy. You know, in a feature film, and you know, feature films have their own merit. Trust me, I make them. But you know, the experience, it happens then, and you might, you know, take it with you a couple of days or a month. You know, you might share it and talk about it. But when something is serialized, you know, our goal is that you're going to be with these characters for a long time. You're going to see them through various different scenarios. So you're going to be connected to them, you know, not for that 2-hour movie, but for, you know, hopefully as things go well, years, you know, just like any serialized show. And so you're going to, you know, you're going to have that, there's more opportunity to create that empathy, you know, trying to find empathy, compassion, and to humanize someone in solitary is sadly a difficult task. You know, the stigmas that, give me one sec. Sorry, my phone here.
Okay.
So I apologize for that.
It's all live. It's all real. No problem.
But you know, the stigmas that, you know, that there are for those that are in prison are pretty bad, and that's just the ones that are in prison. Now, when the average person, you talk to them about the people in solitary, they think they're the devil themselves. You know, they think they're the Hannibal Lecters and all that. And, you know, and that is, you know, that's a challenge to shape and change that behavior, to change that thought. You know, so it's going to take time, and that's why, you know, I'm happy that we're doing this as a serialized show, because I think it's actually going to be what gets the results to start shaping that behavior and changing it. You know.
Well, I really appreciate you had shared me the link ahead of the wide public release, and it was so powerful. And I want to say kudos to yourself, Jen, but also outside of yourself, the 2 other performers,
yes,
that are in that. Can you speak to them, because they didn't, outstanding job. And I want you to give some kudos to them, because I give them large kudos, because it doesn't look like it was an easy thing to do.
No, and it wasn't. I'll start with our lead actor who plays Marcus Williams. He's the guy that's actually in The Hole. And it's a very, very fascinating story with him. So the backstory, though, to start with him is when we were casting, we knew that we wanted to cast someone who had at least experienced prison. That was one of our main priorities for the person that was going to be in the cell. So we reached out to a couple of arts organizations out here in California that work with those that are either incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, and they do theater productions. They teach them the art of theater, acting, and all that, and they do these shows. There was this one organization that basically, I talked to them about it. I gave them a description of our actor, and they were like, William Brown. That was the one name they gave me, was William Brown, And so, so I finally ended up meeting this William Brown. We had a 1-hour audition, which is very unusual. Typically when we do auditions, we see at least 100 people. They come in, they say their lines, they go out next, right? This audition was one person, it was 1 hour. And the majority of that time was we just spent talking, like, who are you? Will, talk to me about you, talk to me about your experience. I already knew he had been to prison, because that was the origin of how this came about. But what I didn't know is he actually spent 18 months in solitary confinement. And that was a whole new revelation. I'm just like, wow, okay, so you do know this story. You've lived this story. So after we talked, I had him do a scene, and it was crazy. He was great. Just right there in the spot. It was honestly, for a director, it was the easiest casting job I have ever done. It was, that things like that show me this project is important. It is meant to be. There's something more powerful than me, bigger than me. When that just happens like that, this is meant to be. So now the trick with Will, though, is that he had never done film. So this is his first thing on camera. This is his very first thing on camera. He's done theater, and theater acting is much, much different than acting for the camera. Theater acting, you have to be able to project your emotions to someone, who's 40 seats back, so you have to be big and loud and project. Film and television is different. The camera can get right on your face. You don't have to show it. You just have to be it, And so naturally, he just fell into that. I mean, some actors have a very tough time trying to transition from theater into the on-camera work, or vice versa. So we didn't really have any issues with that. The interesting thing is when we got to Portland, we filmed this in Portland, Oregon. We had a couple of days prior to the shoot. So, we just kind of hung out, got some things prepped and things like that. So I really got to know Will. Plus we drove up from LA. So we were together, like literally a 17-hour car ride.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you obviously get to know someone during that time. And so what was fascinating is day one of filming, when he put on the orange jumpsuit and got into the cell, I saw a different man that I had been hanging out with for the first few days prior to that. I mean, a totally different man. It was like something about getting back into that real cell and being into that real jumpsuit. We had a legitimate jumpsuit that prisoners actually wear. And there, it was a switch, and he really what he did, and it's a tough thing to do, especially when we had some of those very tough scenes in the pilot episode, is he put himself back to that very ugly experience of his own. He relived it, and that's hard, and he had to do a lot, and there was a lot of emotional things for him, but he's using those negative experiences that he has as a positive to show people this is what it is. This is what it is. You want to know what the Hole is like? This is what the Hole is, and you're right. He did a magnificent job. Now on the other side of the prison wall is our guard. His name's Colin. And Colin is, it's a totally different experience, because we didn't have the luxury of being able to cast the other role in LA. So we had to cast in Portland, a city that I'd never been to. I knew nothing about Portland, So we did, it's pretty crazy.
All right.
We did a few, posts for actors out there, and I got not quite a few. I'd say I got maybe 10 submissions, And they all came in, and just no one either looked the right part, or the performance wasn't up to par. And I was really like getting desperate. I was like, this may not work, And I literally got my last submission, and it was from Colin. And I watched this thing, and I'm like, oh, he can go there. He plays that stern, this is my environment, welcome to my world, and you will act accordingly in my world. That is his role. And he this was all through a video submission. They do video submissions because they didn't come out here. So it was the last one, and it was like, wow, okay, we got our guy. We got our, it was amazing how that worked out. So this is a city I'd never been to, actors I'd never met, and using sites that I've never used because I don't know anything about Portland. So we got our guy. But one thing I do have to say about Colin, I've had a lot of people watch it, and they say, man, I hate that guy. That guy, I want to see something bad happen to him in episode 2. I got to tell you, off camera, he is the sweetest man on earth. He is not that character at all. He does the character very well, but he's a very, very sweet guy. And what's funny is his brother used to be a correctional officer.
Oh my goodness.
Go figure. Go figure. You want to know something else? One of our grips, who's now become a good friend of ours,
yes.
We just hired him because someone in Portland said, hey, this would be a good guy to be a grip. For people that don't know, grips are the ones that, they handle the lights and the stands, and, basically, they help keep things moving around so that, people have to wait around. So we hired this guy because everyone gives us these, these really great referrals. And come to find out, when we're there shooting, he spent, I think it was 6 months in the hole, and he spent like 8 years in prison. And talking about how this show, he read the script and it was very personal for him. And since then, things have evolved in such a way. I mean, he wrote an amazing post for the Good Men Project that talked about his experience, going through, through prison as a, as a kid. He went in there at 18, and the lessons that he learned from that. So it's been amazing. It's extremely fruitful, extremely organic, and honestly magical. I mean, some of the stuff, you can't force this stuff to happen. You know what I mean? And it's just coming together. And so episode 1, the pilot episode, it is out. It's very easy to get to. Just go to the whole WHOLE series.com, thewholeseries.com. It's right there on the homepage. Click it, watch it, share it, like it, subscribe. Because episode 2 is coming. We're filming episode 2 this summer, and I just confirmed with the rest of the team, we're good for our dates. So episode 2 is on it, and we've got some very interesting plans for episode 2.
Let me ask, and you were on a chat, and both of us do submissions, provide content for the goodmenproject.com, and recently you were on a Twitter chat. You were part of a Twitter chat on the Good Men Project about this, and it seems that this project has really moved you and your partner Jen Fisher. She said during the Twitter chat that it's something she's never experienced before working on this project. How has this project moved you?
Ooh, it's definitely moved me. So you're right in that. I think what has moved me is the realization of those that are in prison. The realization of those that are in solitary confinement. The realization that we incarcerate far too many people for far too long, and there are people and entities that do benefit from this, and the sad part for me, though, what moves me is like we're talking about people's lives, we're talking about it's not just the people in prison, but the families outside. We're talking about juveniles being sent to solitary confinement, children. A teenager is still a child. I work with teens 3 days a week, teaching them filmmaking. They are children, and we're putting them into isolation, into solitary confinement, which the United Nations has considered torture. That is wrong. That is wrong. With our insane drug laws, and I wrote something for the Good Men Project. This was maybe a month ago now. And it was the first time I had to be very brutally honest about my own past. and I wasn't the, the nicest boy on the block, and I did some things, I used some, illegal drugs. I did basically, a variety of things that could have easily landed me in jail, could have easily landed me in the hole. And I am not a bad person. You know what I mean? But I could have very easily entered into that system. So here you have someone, I consider myself a good man. I consider myself someone who uses his passions and his talents and his interests to do my part for social good, But I could have been easily trapped into that system, and I would be one less good man out here doing the work that I do. That's what moves me. That's what moves me. And there's a lot of good men, a lot of good women, and a lot of good children. And they're being held behind these bars for insane reasons. They're being tortured, and they have potential. But instead of us trying to rehabilitate them, we punish them. The thing that I've really come to learn is when someone goes to prison, that's the punishment. That is the punishment. You were in society free doing your thing. You are now no longer. You are taken away from society, and you're in this secluded space. That is your punishment. But when you're already there to be further punished, to be treated as less than human, to be subjected to torture, and then we wonder why we have such high recidivism rate. They're going to come back out. The majority of the prisoners, they come back out. And all we do is we make them worse, And I'm not saying every single prison in America and every single correctional officer, does that, but by and large, the majority, that is how it is. It's a broken system. It is broken. It works for some, but it definitely does not work for those that are actually in it. And I think that goes for the correctional officers too. These are good people, but they're put into a system and given a way of how to manage within that system that is not necessarily proper. Again, they're told to punish. And so that's what moves me is we got to find a way to just change this, stop this system of mass incarceration, bring those numbers down, stop solitary confinement. And if you have to have solitary confinement for the very, very, very small percentage of people that are in prison, you do it in a way like Norway. Norway has a very interesting model. Their isolation cells are not these like cold, dreary, they're full of life. They try to at least have them enjoy the experience. I mean, not that you can enjoy isolation, but you know what I mean? They make it as best as they can. Here we make it as worse as we can, and it's just, more progressive thinking, so that we can actually, just progress as a society, and and the other thing that moves me to do this is, obviously doing this work, we do research and I talk to different activists and social justice groups. So within that circle, yeah, they already knew this information. They knew this information well before I knew this information. But still, my average friends, I'm from Boston, I talk to them, my friends here in LA, they don't know this information, They're wondering, what are you talking about? What is this, solitary confinement, man? Why are you making shows on defending these people? I'm hearing this from my own friends. It's because they don't know. They don't know. The average American, in fact, the average person in the world does not know the true nature and the true state of mass incarceration, solitary confinement, and the criminal justice system in this country. The average person does not know. They need to know. They need to wake up. We need to make change.
We've had a number of conversations together, and I've never heard you so passionate.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
And I'm loving it. You're at a whole different level, and I'm really enjoying it. And I know whoever is going to be watching this, whether they're watching it live or on a replay, will really enjoy this. How has, in your opinion, some of the events that have happened with police, violence over the last year and a half in your country, America, what effect has this had on the issue of mass incarceration in regards to solitary confinement? As you said at the beginning of the conversation, it's become a very hot topic, but what effect do you feel some of the publicized events, and there's many that are not publicized, have had on the whole area of mass incarceration and solitary confinement in the United States?
What is definitely, there. First of all, I think it's a positive. Yes, critics will always point out, the negative things like, looting and destruction. But by and large, for the most part, this has been a very positive movement, going from from Ferguson to New York to Baltimore, you know, everywhere in between, and all, you know, even the protests here in LA, in the Bay Area, you know, all across this nation, you know, what it's showing us, and what it's, you know, the public, what it's showing the world is that there is a problem. There is a problem, you know, and so it has opened up the spotlight to the world, so that we can look at this, you know. Now, what I'm hoping is that, you know, there's a guy named Glenn Martin. He's with an organization called Just Leadership USA, amazing organization. And we talked a few times. He's a, you know, a supporter of the show, and you know, one of the things that he, you know, said is, you know, we're in a moment. We're in a moment, you know, and we've been in that moment for you know, like you said, about, you know, year and a half. But we need to be in the next step, which is the movement. You know, we don't want this to be a series of moments, and then in like 6 months or a year, it just goes away. You know, so we need to go from moment to movement. The movement is what creates change. The moment sheds the light on it, but the movement is what keeps it going, you know? So, you know, I appreciate all of the activists and the you know, social justice groups out there on the front lines, and just, you know, showing the world that these issues are out there and they're happening in high numbers. You know, communities of color, communities of poverty are definitely disenfranchised. They're definitely treated in different ways than other communities in this country. And that results in large rates of incarceration for a certain population of our country, let's be honest. And that's why, you know, our jail cells are filled with Black and brown skinned people. That's the majority of those that are in our prisons, and, you know, and those that are of low income. You know, not very many rich folks, you know, in those prisons, you know.
No.
You know, and so that's what this, I feel that this has done. You know, all of those individuals that have come together in their respective parts of this nation, they are using their voice that they rightfully have, and they're getting this out there, you know. And I just, you know, I want more people to come on. And, you know, the thing too, I think what also keeps things makes it from a moment to becoming a movement is more people getting involved, but they don't necessarily have to get involved with the ways they see. You know, you don't have to be out there on the streets with signs and protesting. Maybe that's not for you, you know, but find your way to add your voice. If you have an opinion, if you care about this, find your way. For me, you know, I was a filmmaker that didn't focus on social issues prior to this. I just love the art of film. But you know, I realized to myself, like, I'm just naturally care about the world and care about, you know, leaving this world a better place than I found it. So let's just combine the two, you know. So I do my work through filmmaking. You know, someone else might do it through literature, through poetry, you know, through what, you know, whatever, you know what I mean, and through shows like yours, you know, where you get people on and you talk about, you know, what's going on and ways to make change. If, you know, everyone, you know, becomes their own little spoke in that wheel, then there's movement, you know, then there's movement.
Share us a special moment during the recording of The Whole that really moved you.
Moved me?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very, very easy one to answer. And, you know, I'll tell audiences when they watch it, it's the second montage prior to, well, I won't give it away, but it's the second montage. They'll know the montage. Yeah.
Yep.
So what was interesting about that is everything in the sorry, let me take it back. It was everything that happened after Marcus's final encounter with the guard. After his final encounter, we don't need to talk about what happens there, but after this final encounter with the guard, there is a moment where there's different clips of just seeing him in his cell. There's no talking. He's just, you know, he's dealing with something that just happened. Everything in the script was written except for that series of clips. And what we did was we said to Will, you know, it was almost kind of like an experiment, you know. We were like, you know, let's just try this. We said, Will, just forget the script for now. Just put yourself in the hole. You're in the hole. Just be there. And that was it. And so I told my camera guy, I said, just follow him. Just simply follow him. And we did that for about maybe 45 minutes. You know, it's a rather long time to do it. But some of the most intense, and these are things where he's not saying a word, but some of the most intense and true and honest look at a human being who is in isolation, it's in those clips. And that was a powerful moment, because I was able to, you know, it's very odd, but I was able to be in that cell and just, you know, and I'm on monitor, of course, you know, but I'm still in that cell, and I'm just seeing this person up close and personal in isolation, you know, truly get to actually see that. You know, when you're watching documentaries and things like that, you know, when they give the, you know, the camera people access, the whole prison knows that they're being watched, you know, so of course everyone acts in a different manner, you know, so you never get an accurate look at prison, right? And so it was just fascinating, you know, and I knew that we were going to use some of those moments, you know, because they were just so authentic. There was no performance there. There was none, you know. People, you know, they ask me, you know, why doing, you know, telling this story through this manner, through a scripted narrative, fictional manner. And I'm like, it's scripted, but I can safely say it's not that fictional. It's really not, you know. Everything is based on true events. The people that are, you know, or the character that you're watching, he's lived it. He's not just an actor. He's lived it. He is showing you this is real. You know what I mean? And just a technical, you couldn't get this type of footage ever. No prison is going to let you go into a cell and just record someone who's in isolation. It'll never happen for obvious reasons, right? Absolutely. So, you know, but that was a moment. That was a moment of, you know, and honestly, it was pretty. It's weird to say, it was a pretty ugly moment. It was, you know, I seeing Will go through that was scary. You know, I saw him hurt, crushed, suffocated. You know, I saw him, you know, angry. I also saw him defeated. You know, I also saw him, you know, anxious and not knowing what to do, knowing that he can't do anything but wanting to do. You know, it was just this whole mix of emotions, you know, for 45 minutes. It was intense. It was intense. And that was completely improvised, you know, and it's some of the best moments in that show.
It's phenomenal. And you had mentioned some of the reaction you've been getting. What have people been telling you about episode 1?
The biggest one is it's so real.
Yeah. And I like your disclaimer. I like your disclaimer right at the beginning, because that tells you it's really real.
Mm-hmm. That's the number one. You know, we've gotten a lot of feedback from your average Joe. Gotten a lot of feedback from those in the criminal justice world, social activists, and also you know, feedback from those that have actually been incarcerated. I am, you know, always really more concerned with the reactions of those that have been incarcerated. You know, I want to know, you know, keep my fingers crossed. Did we do it justice? Did we do it justice? You know, and yes, you know, you know, so many people that have been incarcerated that I've talked to that have watched the show have said, you know, thank you, you know, you nailed it. This is it, you know, and that's not a kudos to myself. That's a kudos to the whole team. You know, it was a team, and everyone played their part, and they got it right, you know. So the reactions have been great, you know, to be very honest with you, they've been great. You know, I think
it's good.
The one, you know, some of the reactions are, you know, a lot of people, they hate the guard. That's you know, that's
but you know what, that's a good thing, because they're engaged and they're watching it.
They're engaged.
And they're bringing out passion.
And also, you know, people, you know, there's a lot of questions that people have. You know, they want to know, you know, more about Marcus. You know, so that's obviously where we go with episode 2. You know. Episode 1, we jump right into the hole. We're there, you know. You don't know his backstory. You're just you're just this dude, and he's going into the hole, and he's in the hole. That's it, you know, and you just see this guy in the hole. So we're going to explore more of that, you know, in episode 2. But yeah, the feedback has been great, you know. Some of the comments, you know, from just your average Joe, like, you know, friends on Facebook and things like that have no connection to this world whatsoever. You know, they, you know, a lot of people said it's hard to watch. You know, they said it's hard to watch. You know, they say it disturbing. You know, and I tell them, you know, it should be hard to watch. You know, it should be disturbing because it is. It is. You know, and that to me is like, you know, this is happening on average to 80,000 people in this country alone. They're living that Marcus story. And if you're disturbed by that, then, you know, that's where you need to start getting engaged, so that we can no longer be disturbed by these things, so that we stop this disturbing, torturous act, you know? So I'm glad they're disturbed, and I'm glad that they find it hard to watch. You know, it is what it is, you know? So yeah, there's been a range of reactions.
As we wind down here, and you're very good, you're setting me up for our wind down of our conversation. What would you like the viewers of The Hole, after they see it, what call to action would you like them to take after they see something, see The Hole, sorry?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The first thing that I would encourage them to do is, you know, is after they watch it, if they feel compelled to move, to act, go to our resources page. It's on the same website. There's a few different organizations that you can interact with, you know, but also too, you know, if you're going through these organizations and something's not clicking to you, or, you know, they might be in a different state, you know, you've got the internet. You know, Google is an amazing tool. You know, here's the thing. It's not hard to get engaged. If you want to get engaged, it's easy to get engaged. You know, if you live in you know, Portland, Oregon, you know, go on to Google and Portland, Oregon, social justice groups, criminal justice groups, you know, whatever. Search them out, reach out, you know, just basically take the first steps, which is find those organizations that are near you, get engaged, get involved, sign up for, you know, email lists, you know, things like the ACLU, Amnesty International, you know, ACLU, they had this whole thing going around, a petition to stop solitary for those that are youth, you know, it was to stop youth solitary confinement. But you don't get that unless you're, you know, you sign up for the emails, you know, and those are very easy things to do, you know, just go to their website and sign up for their email list, you know, that's a call to action, and you will get notifications because they're trying to create change all the time, you know. So if you can't physically get out there, then I say find these organizations. There's a few of them on our website. At the very minimum, sign up to get their information, because they will give you calls to action. They'll give you calls to action every day. You know what I mean? And some of them are very simple. It's just as simple as sign an online petition, you know? But guess what? Those numbers add up, and those numbers hold weight when there's volume. And it does create change, you know? So, so anyone who watches it and feels engaged, start on our resources page, but also feel free to explore the internet, you know? And see what other things are out there. You know, do as little or as much as you can, you know, but I do say do something. Do something.
What can the viewers do to support The Hole, other than watching it? Is there any opportunities that they can do on top of just watching it as many times as they can? Sharing it
is absolutely, you know, this is a grassroots effort. So after you share it, I mean, after you watch it, you know, share it with your peers, share it with, you know, your friends, family, share it, just share it, post it on message boards, post it on, you know, forums, you know, online forums, just get it out there, you know, tweet it out there, whatever, Facebook it out there, share it, you know. They can also, you know, if they, you know, because it's a self-funded show. It's, you know, it's literally funded by the people. Like episode 2 was a crowdfunded effort. The campaign's over, but there is still a contribution button if people, you know, want to just support the work financially, so that we know there's an episode 3, you know. So that's right there on thewholeseries.com, literally on the homepage, so you can contribute financially. But you know, if you can't contribute financially, share. That is so important right now, is to share. We need to grow the audience, you know. And we're doing everything we can, and you know, folks like you supporting us and getting our message out there. But for those that are you know, watching this now, or watch it, later, go to thewholeseries.com, WHOLE, thewholeseries.com. Watch it. If you like it, if you appreciate it, if you feel this message needs to be out there, you share it. If you want to do anything for Think 10 Media Group and anything for this cause, share it. That would be appreciated.
Before we let you go out, and you mentioned there, how did you manage and how did you find the crowdfunding effort? Because I know it was something new to you.
Yeah, the crowdfunding effort was it was new to me. I did a crowdfunding campaign, I think it was back in 2009 or 10. It was for a much smaller amount of money, and it was for a totally different topic. It was for like an educational documentary. But this was a different beast for sure. Because this was something, trying to raise money for a film project, period, is hard. But when people find out what the topic is, especially friends and family, it makes things a little bit more difficult. Let's just say that, because of the stigma. Yep. So it was definitely a battle, and I don't regret it because we now have episode 2, ready to go. But the biggest thing that I learned is when you do it right, it's a full-time job. It is a full-time job, So if there's anyone out there, that's an artist, funding any sort of a project whatsoever, and they're thinking about crowdfunding, make sure that you have a strong base already. Don't try to build your base when you do it. Make sure that when you start, you have a strong network, and go in knowing that it's a campaign. It is a campaign. It is work. It's not as simple as put it out there and send a Facebook message and a tweet. No,
more than that. Definitely more than that.
Definitely more than that. So it's rigorous, and I don't know if we would do that again for the whole or not. I don't know. We literally just got over with the campaign not too long ago, so I'm still trying to decompress from it. But I am very thankful, that whole platform, has sprung up, this whole crowdfunding campaign, because it does allow for independents like ourselves to find ways to get our work made. The studios aren't going to make our work. I'll tell you that, So it has to be those that care about seeing this messaging out there, And the interesting thing, moving forward is, for us, in episode 2, we're gonna start to get into the issues of mass incarceration. It's still gonna link with obviously the whole, but we're gonna start tying it into the WHOLE, the whole, which is in the mass incarceration, and which is a very hot issue, and I'm telling you, we're gonna do everything we can to do it right, to do it justice. No pun intended, but
right.
Yeah, but we are, we're going to do everything we can to get it right, tell the story accurately, and in doing so, I hope that all of those that are fighting to end mass incarceration and to end solitary, again, they watch it, they share it, share it. We gotta grow this base even more. We got a decent base, but we got to grow it even more. And also too, other things that I can say. You asked like what else can people do? We've had we had a couple of church groups that held screenings, and they used the show itself as an advocacy tool. They used the show itself as a call to action. So we did one, for example, in DC. We screened the show, and we had an organization called the National Religious Campaign Against Torture was on the panel with me. So I was there to talk about the show. They were there to talk about, what can you do? You just saw the torture of solitary confinement, so let's discuss what you can do. So if there's people out there that work with church groups or social justice groups or just any groups in general, use the show itself as an advocacy tool to get people together, to get them to take action, So there's many ways. Get creative, get creative.
Absolutely. Well, Ramon, I'm going to just end it off there because, as I said, I'm jacked because I've never seen you so passionate. I'm really enjoying it because, as I said, I'm saying this as a huge compliment that I see that you and Jen are at a whole other level, and it's really wonderful because I've just seen that. Passion has just grown to the next level. If you want to find out more information, their contact information is part of is part of the description of our broadcast today. And he's on Twitter at Ramon Hamilton, and also Think 10 Media Group is on Twitter, Facebook, etc. All the contact information is there. When are you looking to shoot episode 2? Summertime?
Yeah, right now we're looking at the end of July.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, Ramon will keep us up to date on what's going on with it, because he knows the platform is always open for him, Jen, and the rest of the Think 10 Media Group. It's Dr. Vibe here. I'm host and producer of the Dr. Vibe Show. I am host and producer of the weekly Black Men's Roundtable, Do You Know What Time It Is?, which is on most Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Also, you can catch me once a month at the Good Men Project, hosting the Good Men Project show. I also co-produce it with Marie Roker Jones. Also, catch Ramon on it because he's doing a lot of stuff on there too. I remember a while back he said, "Do you know how I can get involved with the Good Men Project?" Well, now he's really involved in the Good Men Project, and that is a good thing. And also, you can get me once a week on Monday nights, producing and co-hosting the weekly podcast for a proposal for a White House council on boys and men. As always, I like to say you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and your solution for someone's problem. As we say, God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and watch the whole and spread and share. Bye-bye.